are just days away from SummerSlam 2014. The go-home Raw is in the books, and it's time for the show. We're going to touch on last night's Raw just a little bit in this commentary, and I'm going to give my full predictions for the pay-per-view as well. Now, we got to start with Raw. I'm sure most of you were thinking what I was thinking during the show, saying to yourself, wow, this is a fucking shitty go-home Raw for SummerSlam. Just very boring, stale, and cold, and somewhat meaningless matches taking place. The crowd wasn't really into that much on the show. And there was a few things that they were doing, and you're like, why the fuck are they even doing this? But let's start right with the main event. Let's start with Hulk Hogan's birthday party. Now, I like the fact that this was the main event, because everything was pointing to Brock Lesnar making an appearance at this birthday party. I was tweeting a lot about it as well. I mean, you guys remember SummerSlam 2002, the last time Brock Lesnar got a title shot at this show. He and Hogan crossed paths that year, too, and it resulted with Brock Lesnar wiping the blood of Hulk Hogan across his chest. So I thought it was a really good opportunity to do a little throwback, to that and have some sort of a confrontation between Hulk Hogan and Brock Lesnar. Now, earlier on in the show, Brock Lesnar and John Cena each cut separate promos. Brock and Paul Heyman opened the show. Paul Heyman did most of the talking. Fucking awesome shit, as always, from him. And it was really funny. After Paul Heyman was done hyping up the match, he said, you know what, we're going to go out to eat, but we're coming back. And then later on in the show, John Cena comes out to the ring and cuts his promo about SummerSlam. And I got to tell you, it was another good one from John Cena a couple of weeks ago when he got really crazy and really passionate and emotional. I thought that promo was pretty good too, but I actually think this one was better. And how funny is it that he's out there with yet another fucking t-shirt and hat and wristbands? It just fucking tickles me. He's back to red. I think he's already been red, but then again, he was already green too, and he went to neon green, so now he's a little bit darker red, and there's some yellow in there too, so it was appropriate, considering that the main event is all about Hulk Hogan. So the red and yellow hated superhero is in the ring cutting what I consider to be a pretty good promo on Brock Lesnar, but when you look at the time, you're saying, hey, the show is not even over for another hour. This is the main event of SummerSlam. This is a huge match. This is one of those rare, icon versus icon type of matches, just a big deal. You're not going to have the final confrontation between the two guys be two separate promos in the middle of the show. Something has got to happen at the main event, so that was obvious. And I guess Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman were still eating their dessert because John Cena was calling out Brock Lesnar, but of course Brock wasn't there because they were down at their local fucking Arby's. And I kind of like the way they did it too, because what it reminded me of, John Cena, of course, is the fearless, never give up babyface role model to millions of kids, but he's calling out Brock Lesnar when technically this is something that a heel does. The heel is the type of guy that comes out to the ring and calls out his adversary when he knows he's not in the building. So that might be the closest thing that we ever see to John Cena ever going heel, doing something that a heel would do. He should know that Brock and Paul Heyman are probably still out to dinner, and yet he's calling him out anyway just so he can look like a badass when Brock is too scared to show up, right? So pretty funny how they did that. Now we fast forward to the main event, and I'll tell you, what a main event. I was wondering what the hell they were going to do. Okay, they were going to do a big Hogan birthday celebration. They've done this for lots of guys, but I had no idea that they were going to bring out all the guys that they brought out. It basically turned into a miniature, Ric Flair retirement send-off, or when they did that nice thing for him after Raw in 2003, or what they most recently did for Bret Hart in Canada during his birthday. So every now and then the WWE will get together and put together an awesome tribute, on Raw, off camera, and on camera, for some big legend where they bring out a lot of his past friends and opponents. And the segment kicks off with Mean Gene Okerlund and Jimmy Hart in the ring. It was like the late 80s and early 90s had somehow morphed and meshed into 2014, and it was fucking crazy to see that. I mean, you got to be realistic here. I mean, how many more times, any time from here on out, that you ever see Mean Gene Okerlund interview Hulk Hogan, there's a very good chance that could be the last time we ever see it. And you guys know I'm not the biggest Hogan fan, but just to see that was pretty cool. And then, of course, Hulk Hogan comes out, Real American Music, crowds going apeshit, fucking awesome. And then they begin to call out a whole bunch of Hogan's friends. First of all, the entire WWE roster comes and fills the stage, and then they bring out guys like Roddy Piper, Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff, who's back. He made an appearance at WrestleMania 30. And he looks hilarious with that mustache. I know he's very, very small now. I know he's had some neck problems in the past. One of those problems caused his entire left arm to completely atrophy, and he lost all his muscle mass basically completely in that arm, and it looks like it's happening to his whole body. But he is really, really, really small. But still, really, really good to see him out there. His feud with Hogan in 1986, some of that shit they were doing, the cage match on Saturday Night's Main Event, and all of their great matches that they had when they had that really intense feud, during that year. And they traveled all over the country selling that match. They also brought out Ric Flair and Roddy Piper, which is fitting. Raw was in Portland. I do know that Roddy lives near that area. And, of course, Roddy Piper has a really strong tie to Portland, working for Don Owen in the Portland wrestling days back in the 80s. And I think Pat Patterson should have been in the ring, too. They had him out on the stage, but I think he belonged in the ring. I mean, he's been Hogan's agent for just about everything Hogan has ever done in the WWE, and it was also interesting the fact that he was clapping for Piper when he came out, because we know what's going on between those two guys. They worked together in Legends House, and then when Piper recently did one of the kayfabe commentary shoot interviews, apparently he, insinuates something about Pat Patterson and maybe Piper being molested or something by him when he was younger. I don't know what the fuck that's about. I've still yet to see the interview. But it did raise a few eyebrows, and it was a little strange, and I don't know what the hell he was talking about and why he decides to come out with this so many years later, especially after he just got done living in the same house with the man for a couple of months filming a TV show. I'm almost certain that story is something that was probably blown out of proportion, because there doesn't seem to be any issues with WWE and Piper or Patterson and Piper or anything like that, but I did find it interesting that Piper and Patterson were both a part of this. And the biggest and most awesome surprise at all was the NWO reunion. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash also came out to the ring. You think about the combustible personalities. There's a lot of guys in the ring that have a lot of heat with each other. I mean, I just mentioned Piper and Patterson. Well, Piper and Kevin Nash even recently had a Twitter beef not that long ago, didn't they? I don't remember the story now, but somebody had asked, I think Piper or something like that, what happened between him and Kevin Nash in the locker room in WCW. And Piper, I think, recalls things differently, and Piper might have gotten pushed down or shoved down by the bigger, stronger Kevin Nash, and then it caused the two of them to start reliving it. And apparently Piper got really mad about it. I think they've smoothed it out. I think they even spoke on the phone about it. But it was just really cool to see all those guys in the same ring together. Ric Flair is in the ring with the NWO. Ric Flair was not a fan of the NWO. We all remember what the NWO did to the Four Horsemen, especially when they made fun of Arn Anderson and all of that. Plus Kevin Nash and Piper's former heat, plus the heat that the NWO basically had with everybody. It was really cool to see them in the ring. And then Hogan tears off the red and yellow shirt to reveal the NWO shirt after Scott Hall does the survey. That's what I love about pro wrestling, is you can just never say never. I would honestly think that we would have never in a million years seen the original NWO, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Hulk Hogan in the same ring again ever for the rest of our lives. Especially a WWE ring. Those guys were in TNA together as recent as 4 years ago, but given Scott Hall's problems and Hulk Hogan's problems and the age of all of them, it would be hard to think that you would ever see them again, especially in a WWE environment. And it was most definitely a good mic work, mark-out moment. So now all these guys are in the ring, showering love upon Hulk Hogan, and then, of course, Brock Lesnar's music hits, and he comes power walking out to the ring. Now, what's interesting about this is if this is real life, when Brock Lesnar wants to go out there and kill Hulk Hogan, the entire roster is standing right there. I don't care how tough Brock Lesnar is. If 75 people attack you at once, you're not going to win. So I don't understand if Brock Lesnar would have attacked Hulk Hogan. Surely at least the baby faces would leave the stage and run and try to save him. So Brock Lesnar, I don't know how much damage he thought he was going to do. I was hoping it would be more of a just Mean Gene and Hogan in the ring, and then Brock coming out there and Hogan's all by himself. And John Cena would have to run out and make the save, and Brock Lesnar retreats up the ramp, and that's how Raw should go off the air, with John Cena forcing Brock Lesnar to stand down, and that would also help, the momentum as it kind of goes back and forth in feuds. That would really help provide more evidence that Brock Lesnar will in fact beat John Cena at SummerSlam. So I was kind of right how I predicted Raw would end, but they just threw a whole lot of extra elements in there with all those great legends in the ring celebrating with Hulk Hogan. To see all those guys in the same ring is just something I would never think I would see again. I mean, seriously, Jimmy Hart, Mean Gene, Piper, Flair, Mr. Wonderful, Hall, Nash, Hogan, I mean, give me a break. And it was cool to see Brock Lesnar, too. When he comes in the ring, he kind of does a stare down with everybody, and I was most interested in Kevin Nash. Because Kevin Nash, even though he's old as fuck, he looks amazing. I follow him on Twitter. He's very active on Twitter. He's actually even responded to me a couple of times, and he's always posting workout pics. The man is in unbelievable shape, given his age and everything that he's been through. And I'm not saying Kevin Nash could take Brock Lesnar in a fight or anything like that, but he's taller than Brock Lesnar, and he's just as big as Brock Lesnar. I thought it would make for an interesting stare down, but they never really did it. He got a stare down from Flair, he got a stare down from Piper, but him and Nash never really had that hardcore stare down that I was hoping for. But Nash didn't back down either. I was cracking up. He's just standing there cool as a cucumber, not fucking intimidated at all. And then Brock Lesnar moves on to Hogan, and the two of them stare at each other while Paul Heyman is mocking him in the background. And then finally, of course, the only person capable of stopping Brock Lesnar is John Cena. He runs out to the ring, takes his shirt off, and says, "Come on, bring it, Brock." And they surprised me again. I actually thought we would see a small, short brawl between the two of them. A lot of people were saying, oh, good mic work, they should book this, like, not have the two of them touch. Yeah, I like that kind of booking, but I didn't think it was necessary with John and Brock Lesnar because we've seen this match already just a couple of years ago. It doesn't have that mystique and the intrigue that an Undertaker and fucking, I don't know, Triple H match does or something like that. So I thought they could at least have one fight. But the WWE instead decided to go the direction of not having the two of them actually get physical. And they did great video packages and great hype-up segments on Raw each and every week leading up to SummerSlam. And I thought those video packages did a great job of telling the story and highlighting what a fucking badass, I don't give a fuck about anybody monster Brock Lesnar really is. I mean, he's saying fuck and shit like that. They're just bleeping it, you know? So they're being pretty hardcore with this angle. They're being pretty hardcore with this match. And at the end of the day, I liked what they did with John Cena and Brock Lesnar not throwing one punch on each other. Save it all for SummerSlam. It should be great. As far as who I'm going to predict to win this, we will get into that in just a little bit. As far as what else happened on Raw, I mentioned there was a lot of stupid shit on here as well, and one of the things they did that I did not like was the fact that they added a completely pointless piece to a story that didn't need anything added to it. Stephanie McMahon and Brie Bella, of course, have the match at SummerSlam. Stephanie comes out to the ring to cut a promo about something and says she's got a secret to reveal. And that Daniel Bryan's physical therapist, who is at ringside, has something to tell the WWE Universe. Now, as soon as she got in the ring, Lance Storm, who I also follow on Twitter and is also very active, he immediately tweeted a picture of this girl, and she actually trained at his wrestling school. So he knows her, and he was really happy that she was on Raw. I forget her name now off the top of my head, but a pretty hot chick, too. I checked out her Twitter page and her pictures, and she's a lot hotter than she looked on Monday Night Raw. And, of course, as you could see it coming as she was talking, she reveals that she has been having an affair with Daniel Bryan, which caused TNA's Claire Lynch to trend on Twitter. Brie Bella, of course, storms the ring and is immediately suspicious. Is she paying you to say this? You know, what the fuck? Obviously, she's not believing her at all. The girl who they're calling Megan insists that it's true and gets the shit slapped out of her by Brie Bella. I don't think the segment got over that well with the audience or with the people at home, and to me, it was something that they just didn't even need to add. The feud had enough heat. They were doing great. With what Triple H and Stephanie did to the Bella twins the week before on Raw, with Stephanie nailing them both with a pedigree and her fucking making out with her husband over top of their dead, lifeless corpses, I thought was a great way to end the show, and the feud was ready. This match was ready to happen. They threw a whole new element into the story that I don't think they needed, and it was just a way for Stephanie to get revenge on Brie Bella and to trick her into getting herself arrested just like Stephanie did. So she paid off this girl to claim she had an affair with Daniel Bryan, causing Brie Bella to slap her just like Stephanie slapped Brie, who was an audience member, not a talent, and the cops came and arrested Stephanie. So they came out and did the same thing to Brie Bella. So now Brie got arrested for the same thing that Stephanie did, and it was a little bit of payback for Steph. Pretty cool, conniving little ploy by Stephanie McMahon. She's very manipulative, and I'm sure the storyline will continue that this girl was paid by Stephanie and she really did not have an affair with Daniel Bryan. I think we can all assume that. He just got married to Brie Bella. He cannot be tired of fucking her yet. She's too hot. 20 years from now, Daniel Bryan has an affair, maybe I can believe it, but I'm not going to believe it 4 months after he gets married. And I'll tell you what, it's a good thing Scott Hall and Kevin Nash came out in that main event segment, because if they didn't, my favorite thing on Raw would have been Dean Ambrose busting out of that fucking present like a crazy bastard. That was the funniest shit I've ever seen. Rob Van Dam and Seth Rollins have a match. As Seth Rollins is coming back up to the ramp, they've got all these giant presents laid out for Hulk Hogan's birthday party later on in the show. And of course, it's impossible to miss. There's one big one standing out there. And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, Dean Ambrose is going to come out of that thing Chainsaw Charlie style. Seth Rollins obviously thinks the same thing. He starts scoping out the present, looking at it. He's paranoid that Dean Ambrose is in there. Finally, he thinks better of it and says, that's fucking crazy. And as he starts to walk away, Dean Ambrose comes busting through that thing as if he got a running start. I am so fucking in love with Dean Ambrose. He's like, he's like funny crazy. And that's just why I like him. Because even though he is intense and crazy and full of rage, something about him comes off as absolutely hilarious to me. And I love him. And I'll be rooting for him come Sunday. I don't think I want to mention anything else about Raw because it was basically just, your basic furthering of your other storylines. Although I will quickly mention the Chris Jericho and Bray Wyatt sit-down interview that they had with Michael Cole, or they really had with each other. And I liked it okay. I guess it was another way just to showcase Bray Wyatt's character and how good he is, and Chris Jericho, of course, is a pro. And I thought the interview was good, but it wasn't my favorite thing. A lot of people are commenting and praising it and all of that, and it was good. Bray Wyatt is awesome. Jericho was also awesome. But there's something about those close, confined, tight-spaced little promos that guys have with each other that I don't like. It actually reminded me, and I hated this, but back in what year? 2003, when Kane was feuding with Shane McMahon. And I think one of them invited the other one out to dinner. I think it was Kane who invited Shane McMahon. And then Shane McMahon showed up at the restaurant. Cameras, of course, just happened to be there. They sit down and have dinner together, or I don't even know if they ate dinner, but they basically each do their share of talking, cutting a promo on each other at a fucking dinner table. And then they do the classic spot that you see in movies and TV shows. And I think Shane gets up and pulls the money out of his pocket and slams it on the table and walks away. It was just stupid. So that's all I'm going to say about Raw. Before we get into our SummerSlam predictions, there's a couple of other things I need to mention. During the week, Alberto Del Rio was released from WWE. Now, it's interesting how all of this went down. It even led fans to speculate that maybe this is all a work because of the strange circumstances of the release. But apparently, the story that we're getting online is there was some sort of a confrontation or some sort of an incident with Alberto Del Rio and a member of WWE's staff. And it reportedly involved a slap. Alberto Del Rio might have slapped somebody. And on WWE's website, the very top story on the webpage is Alberto Del Rio Released. And underneath it, it doesn't say, we wish him luck in his future endeavors. It says he was released due to unprofessional conduct. And they didn't use his real name. They used his WWE name. So that right there was weird. And then WWE's Twitter account tweets something to the effect that Alberto Del Rio got what he deserved, and then Triple H retweeted it. So this means one of two things. Either this is a very carefully planned work that some of us fans can see through, or WWE is legitimately pissed off about whatever Alberto Del Rio did. Now here's the thing. I honestly don't care. I really like Alberto Del Rio. I think he's a great wrestler. I think he's a great-looking character. And I basically like everything about him. He was never that over in the WWE. He was sort of over, especially when he was the douchebag JBL-ish type heel, especially when he first came in. I thought he was moderately over, but he was never huge as a babyface. He wasn't going to main event anything. And we'd even heard stories about that he was frustrated and was probably going to wind up leaving the WWE at some point or not renewing his contract or going back to Mexico or something like that. It doesn't seem like Alberto Del Rio necessarily needed the WWE, and there was a really good chance he was going to leave the company anyway. And on top of that, if he's frustrated, you know what? Fuck him. I don't want to hear him or any other fan say, oh, WWE didn't use him properly or anything like this. This guy was a 4-time WWE champion. He won the WWE title literally months after he debuted, didn't he? And hopefully my stats are right. I'm pretty sure he's won the world title or the WWE title a total of 4 times. He's also won a Royal Rumble. He's cashed in the Money in the Bank in a dramatic way at SummerSlam one year. I mean, this guy was used to a high level. I think WWE liked him right away, and they used him in top or mid-level storylines throughout his entire career. So whatever he's frustrated about, who the fuck knows, who the fuck cares? If there is one thing the WWE did not do with this guy, it was mistreat him. He might have been in a storyline a time or two, or a match a time or two that we didn't like the outcome of or something like that, but he was never fucked with or buried or anything like that. He was treated very, very well. So if Alberto Del Rio chooses to leave, I wish him all the luck in the world, and I think the WWE can survive just fine without him. And guess what? If he wanted to stick around, that's fine too, because I actually like Alberto's work in the ring. I do. But at the same time, you can't be an arrogant, cocky snot either. So I don't know what this guy's deal is backstage. I don't know who likes him, who doesn't like him. But if he's slapping around, magazine writers and catering and shit like that, then this guy is an asshole and he should be fired. It's not the 1980s anymore. You could do shit like this. I mean, Jacques Rougeau knocked out all the fucking Dynamite Kid's teeth because they were having a beef. It was fine to get in little scuffles and fights. And I think back in the day, Vince McMahon deep down liked that kind of thing because it lit a fire under some of his boys' asses. But now the complexion of the company has completely changed. It's a publicly traded company with a public image to maintain, and they can't have shit like this going down. So when somebody is out of line, they do feel like they have to let them go. As far as whether it's a work or not, I don't think so. I don't think that Alberto Del Rio is the guy they would use to do some sort of an elaborate work. I think it would be more a guy like CM Punk or Chris Jericho or somebody that enjoys trolling the fans or throwing them off or doing whatever they can do to not have the fans figure out what the plans are. So I have a feeling that it is legit, but the circumstances around it are definitely eyebrow-raising, to say the least. One final thing I will get to before I get into the SummerSlam predictions, and that is in the world of entertainment. We suffered a huge tragedy yesterday. Robin Williams committed suicide. Really sad to hear that. Apparently he had some problems. He was in rehab a few years ago. He had a cocaine and an alcohol problem, and, that's kind of obvious when you watch him perform and some of the stand-up things that he did, even recently in the last few years. He just looked like he was going to have a heart attack up there. But he really worked hard to clean himself up. Apparently, he even went back to rehab while he was sober. He didn't even relapse. He just went back to rehab just to sharpen up his frame of mind. He had some emotional problems. He was battling depression. And it seems like the more wacky you are in public, the more dark you are behind closed doors. And I feel really bad for Robin Williams and his family. I wish he was able to, you just have to look at everything from everybody's perspective. You never know what's going on in someone's head. I mean, Robin Williams has millions of dollars, lives a life of luxury. Why does he think it's necessary to off himself? And I think when you get to that level and you're so rich and you're so famous, you take all of those luxuries for granted and you don't realize how well of a quality of life you really have. And you let what's going on in your brain and your emotional state get the better of you, and he was too weak and he couldn't hold on and he killed himself. I harshly and admittedly don't have a whole lot of sympathy for people that commit suicide. I think if you want to commit suicide and you want to kill yourself, I back you up. I say go ahead and do whatever you want to do. If you feel like your life is that meaningless that you want to kill yourself, then I don't fucking care. But I'm not going to consider this a tragedy because Robin Williams did what Robin Williams wanted to do. The only people that are suffering from it are us and his family. So don't feel sorry for Robin Williams. He's the one that wanted to leave. Feel sorry for the people that he left behind, his wife, his kids, his family, the millions and millions of fans he had all over the world, young and old. When I put something about Robin Williams on Facebook yesterday when I found out about his death, I could not believe how many young people loved this guy because he has been doing movies all the way up until recently, and he was even in a lot of movies that a lot of 20-year-olds would remember, even stuff like in the 90s like Mrs. Doubtfire and shit like that. I remember Robin Williams as a kid watching Mork and Mindy. I remember Robin Williams from Good Morning Vietnam. Some of the younger generations remember him from Jumanji and shit like that. So Robin Williams reached a wide audience. Young, old, men, women, and children all love this guy, and it's tragic. It is tragic that it happened. I wish this guy could have got his shit together and realized that life is worth living. He still has many, many years ahead of him. He was only 63. And it's really a shame that someone feels that that's their only way out, that that's the only way that they can truly be happy is by leaving this earth. And now we're finally up to SummerSlam predictions. I will try to do this relatively quick and not speak too long on too many matches here, but of course we got to spend a little bit of time on the main event. John Cena versus Brock Lesnar, WWE title. The John Cena cynics are out in mass. I don't know why they're being so loud and obnoxious. You would think they would want to avoid looking stupid when John Cena ends up losing on Sunday. But there are a lot of people that swear up and down that John Cena is going to beat Brock Lesnar and beat him clean and Super Cena his way out of 3 or 4 F5s and continue his reign as WWE champion. Now here's my problem. I agree the match, I guess, could still go any way. But you got to think of how they got to this point. I've mentioned it time and time again that Daniel Bryan getting injured is the only reason that John Cena is on top right now anyway. And given what Brock Lesnar did at WrestleMania 30 to The Undertaker, ending his streak, you do not just on the spur of the moment say, I know Brock isn't going to be working a full schedule, but we're going to give him a title shot anyway. That way we can just have a big match and he'll lose to John Cena and that's it. I don't think Brock Lesnar would even be in this match if he wasn't going to win the WWE title. Because if John Cena were to defeat Brock Lesnar and defeat him clean and completely end the momentum that Brock Lesnar started at WrestleMania 30, not only does that take a shit on Brock Lesnar, but that takes a shit on The Undertaker. You got to think about how significant it was when that streak ended at WrestleMania. You just do not kill the guy that ended that streak's momentum a mere 4 months later at the expense of your superhero babyface champion that you just threw the belt on because your main champion was injured. If John Cena is going to have a successful title defense at SummerSlam, then he's just going to wrestle somebody else. He's not going to wrestle Brock. So I am standing firm in my prediction that Brock Lesnar beats John Cena. There's a whole bunch of other things to look at. Could we get a Seth Rollins cash-in? I seriously doubt it, but maybe we could. I think they need to hold off Seth Rollins for several more months, maybe even till the beginning of next year, so hopefully Seth Rollins will not be an issue at all, especially after he has his match with Dean Ambrose. And if Brock Lesnar does win, I don't think Seth Rollins wants to cash that in on him, even if he just got done having a brutal match. No way. So hopefully the briefcase will not play a role at all. Then you can look at other things. Well, maybe the WWE needs to keep the title off of Brock Lesnar because he's just not going to be able to be on TV enough to defend it or be champion, so they can run some sort of a crazy angle where Brock Lesnar gets disqualified. Maybe Brock Lesnar still leaves John Cena in a bloody heap in the middle of the ring, completely motionless and unconscious, yet Brock Lesnar somehow is not the WWE champion, so he keeps him strong and also keeps the title on Cena. Now, if that's the case, then you could have a cash-in, then Rollins could come down and lay over a bloody beaten Cena for the pin, but I don't think Seth Rollins would be the guy to emerge as champion in the middle of a Brock Lesnar-John Cena match. This match is too big. And I'm also recording these predictions without knowing or looking up what Brock Lesnar is advertised for in the future. I don't know if he's going to be on the Raw after SummerSlam for sure. I'm guessing he is. I don't know if he's advertised or booked for Night of Champions yet. A lot of times that information is already out, so it kind of depends on what Brock Lesnar is going to be doing. Brock Lesnar cannot be champion if he's only scheduled for 2 more appearances between now and the Royal Rumble. It's just not going to work. And this is where my anger really boils over with the Cena haters, because you have to look at this thing logically. Yes, I'm with all of you. I'm with the haters and the Cena lovers that Brock Lesnar needs to win this match. I want Brock Lesnar to win this match. I want Brock Lesnar to be the WWE champion. He would be a badass fucking heel champion, especially with Paul Heyman by his side, combining that with the recent release of his DVD. It's just perfect. Brock Lesnar is WWE champion. I think needs to happen because it's money. To me, it wouldn't make any sense just to have John Cena beat this guy, and that's where the Cena haters have no idea how fucking stupid they are. I mean, give me a break. Your hate is so strong that you're talking out of your ass. Oh, good mic work. You're going to look stupid when John Cena beats Brock Lesnar. Why would he just beat Brock Lesnar? After all the things I just laid out, the role that Brock Lesnar is on, how much they're paying him, and what a big fucking marquee player he is, why would they just have him come out there and lose to Cena clean 4 months after ending The Undertaker's streak? It's not going to happen. If they wanted Cena to retain at SummerSlam and go on to have an 8-month title reign, they would simply put a different opponent in the ring with him. So the fact that this match is happening at all, to me, points to Brock Lesnar winning, but then you have to tie in that whole fact, what the hell are they going to do with a champion that's never going to be on the show? He's going to have to fucking work something out. So what do? Have Brock Lesnar win the title at SummerSlam and lose it the next night on Raw? Does he lose it at Night of Champions? I don't want to see him lose it at all. If you're going to take the time to put the belt on Brock Lesnar, then keep the belt on Brock Lesnar. But at the same time, if Brock Lesnar's not going to be around, you can't do that. So the WWE seems like they're in a pickle. But they have a plan, because this match would not be made if they didn't have some sort of a plan. I don't even think Brock Lesnar would allow them to use him if they didn't know where they were going with him in the future. If for any reason John Cena emerges victorious at SummerSlam, I promise you there will be a whole bunch of fucking bullshit attached to it. And that goes for both guys, actually. Even if Brock Lesnar wins, you got to think that, it could involve some sort of a distraction. It could involve John Cena having Brock Lesnar pinned and beaten in the middle of the ring, but no referee to count it, leading to Brock Lesnar win in the end. It's going to have to go some way like that. So even if Brock Lesnar does win, I know these assholes are still going to find a reason to complain, and I don't fucking care. Why don't we move on next to what could actually be the second biggest match on the card, Stephanie McMahon versus Brie Bella. Now, without getting into too many details on this, I'm going to predict Stephanie to win. I think Stephanie has to win. She is much more over as a heel than Brie Bella is as a babyface. I've been mentioning for several weeks, too, that I wouldn't be surprised at all if Nikki Bella winds up turning heel on her sister. I think that could be a good way to have Stephanie win. And it should be an interesting match. I'm sure Stephanie will hit the pedigree. I'm sure Brie will have Stephanie locked in the yes lock. And I actually think it's going to be a really fun and entertaining match to watch. Call me crazy, but I just do. And I'm picking Stephanie to win. Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton. Well, what else can we say about this match? Reigns has got to go over. The WWE is super high on him. He's their next big thing. He's their next big star. Randy Orton has had a great year, starting all the way back at last year's SummerSlam, and it's time to put Roman Reigns over. So I'm picking Roman Reigns, obviously. What I'm hoping will be my favorite match on the card, Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. Now, I was immediately let down when I heard that the stipulation that Dean Ambrose has selected for his match was a lumberjack match. To me, that makes no sense, and I'm not even sure if I buy it. I hope this is some sort of a crazy swerve by Dean Ambrose. I hope that his definition of a lumberjack match and ours are two completely different things. Because you have to think, as hell-bent as Dean Ambrose is on getting his hands on Seth Rollins, why a lumberjack match? Replace the goddamn ring ropes with barbed wire. Put this thing in a cage. Put it in a Hell in the Cell. Make it no holds barred. Make it falls count anywhere. Make it anything. So I think it would be funny if at SummerSlam, Dean Ambrose has a completely different explanation of what his version of a lumberjack match is. Maybe he brings actual lumberjacks out to the ring, each of them carrying a chainsaw. Whatever they wind up doing, I hope it's something a little bit different than just a traditional lumberjack match. And I'm sure they've got something up their sleeve. They're not just going to make it some boring-ass lumberjack match, because the problem with a lumberjack match, it's a human cage. The guys are limited to the ring. Yes, they get thrown out every now and then, but then you got 17 other guys getting involved, and you can't tell the story between the two wrestlers, so everything is going to be confined to the ring. So what I think is going to wind up happening is this might be another match where we don't have a winner. But if we do have a winner, I think it might be Rollins. I originally was going to pick Dean Ambrose in this match, but I think Dean Ambrose is either going to go so crazy, and this match winds up, 34 rows up in the upper deck, and it's just thrown out, and there's no winner, and then they do some sort of a big, crazy match at the next pay-per-view. Well, shit, then again, the next pay-per-view is Night of Champions. And aren't all of those matches supposed to be championship matches? So unless a briefcase is on the line, I don't think those guys are going to be able to work together, so I don't know. You know what? Fuck it. This is a first. Let me change my prediction right in the middle of a commentary. I am picking Dean Ambrose. He's the one that picked the stipulation, therefore he's the one that should win. So I think either Dean Ambrose is going to win or there's going to be no winner at all. But whatever they do, I hope it surprises us, because right now I'm not that interested in a lumberjack match. Intercontinental title match, The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler. You have no idea how badly I want Dolph Ziggler to win the IC title at SummerSlam. Please, WWE, do something with this motherfucker. He's been de-pushed worse than anybody else in the business. At least he's getting a title shot. It's not a world title shot, but he's at least wrestling for the Intercontinental title, which the fact that that's actually being defended on SummerSlam is pretty cool, and I really, really want Dolph Ziggler to win. But guess what? That's not who I'm predicting. I'm gonna have to predict douchebag Miz to retain his title. Here's why. This whole Hollywood fucking stupid character that they're doing is kind of new. His character is easy to hate. He's been doing commentary every week, standing on the announce table like an asshole while he commentates on his opponent's match and shit like that. The guy is, kind of semi-over as a heel right now, and since they just started all this, and he just returned to Raw, last month? I think that it's a little bit too early to rip the belt off of him, even though I wish I could fucking do it myself. Rusev versus Jack Swagger in a flag match. If this was any other match other than a flag match, I would pick Rusev hands down, because the WWE is really, really trying to get this guy over. And since it's a flag match, and since they seem to be pushing Jack Swagger as a babyface now, how crazy was it to see Jack Swagger have Cesaro in the ankle lock on Raw and Cesaro tapping out? When this team first split up, Jack Swagger was the piece of shit and Cesaro was going to be the next big thing. Now it seems like they've reversed roles. So I think they're going to keep the Swagger and Zeb Coulter momentum going, and they're going to have Swagger beat Rusev in the flag match, because Rusev can lose and still stay strong. He doesn't have to take a pin, or a submission for that matter. The way to win this match is you have to retrieve your flag from the fucking top of the ring post, and that's it. So I predict Jack Swagger to win that match for that reason. And of course we have Chris Jericho and Bray Wyatt. I don't need to talk much about this match. We've seen the build, we've seen the promo, we saw a match between the two of them last month on the pay-per-view. This is Bray Wyatt's time to beat Chris Jericho, and he will. And I'm hoping it's going to be a great match. Jericho's a little bit older, but he's still very capable in the ring, and he's really good at working with the young guys and putting them over. So I hope the match can really stand out and isn't slow and boring and the crowd loses interest. I want it to stay hot, stay high energy, and really have the fans into it, and I want Jericho and Bray Wyatt to tell a great story, and I want Bray Wyatt to go over. If WWE will just give us that, I will be happy with the way this feud ended up. Is that every match? I'm missing something. Oh yeah, I'm missing the Divas match, AJ versus Paige. Now, I don't know. AJ just got the belt back, so I guess I'm going to pick her. I really don't care who wins, but, if they're going to go on a little bit longer with the Paige and AJ feud, you would think that it's probably possible that they could swap the belt a couple times. It seems like the WWE are not that bothered by the CM Punk chants every time she was in the ring. I was worried that that was something that was actually going to backfire and the WWE was going to have no choice but to, maybe put AJ on the back burner until the CM Punk shit blows over. But I don't think it ever will. I think the fans are going to chant that shit until the end of time. And so the WWE doesn't seem to mind it. And as long as they don't seem to mind it, I think they can keep the belt on AJ Lee for a little longer. I love her as champion. So there you go. That's it. Let me just kind of recap. Who did I pick? Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, The Miz, Jack Swagger, AJ Lee, Stephanie McMahon, and Bray Wyatt to all pick up victories at SummerSlam. So that is 4-4. That's 4 babyfaces winning and 4 heels winning. Pretty even. We'll have to see if that even comes close to happening. My predictions usually suck. So we'll see how I fare at this year's SummerSlam. I'm very excited for the show on Sunday. I will be home. I've made arrangements to be home to watch it. I will be live tweeting, live Facebooking, commenting during the whole thing, so feel free to join me. Links to all of my social media pages are in the description below, as well as a whole bunch of other good shit too. So, you guys enjoy the pay-per-view. Most likely, I will be up here with a SummerSlam reaction video. Usually with the big pay-per-views, I'll do a reaction video right after it goes off the air, and then I'll also do one after Raw. So unless circumstances happen that are beyond my control, that is the plan. So expect to hear from me very, very, very late Sunday night or early Monday morning giving my reaction to the pay-per-view. So enjoy the rest of your week, and I will talk to you then. Peace.